Week 10 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few kickers I have as sleepers this week. The first kicker, Cairo Santos of the Chicago Bears. Santos out there in 88% of fantasy leagues, and he actually cracked my top 12 in the kicker rankings this week. So if you haven't checked that video out, it's on the channel with all the other position rankings. So Cairo Santos, he's in a high-powered offense over there in Chicago. The last 3 games he's played in, he's had double-digit fantasy points. I know week 6 and week 7 he missed with injury, and Jake Moody filled in and played well. So week 4, the Raiders 19. Week 5 was a bye. Week 6 and 7 he was out. And week 8, 11 at Baltimore. Week 9 at Cincinnati 10. So this week a good matchup versus the New York Giants coming into Soldier Field. And they give up the 4th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So this Giant defense, they can't stop offenses being in the red zone early and often all season long. And Cairo Santos, he's been an accurate kicker for many seasons and has a nice contract the Bears gave him a few years ago. Put points on the board, so definitely a sleeper option this week. The next kicker, Ryan Fitzgerald of the Carolina Panthers. Fitzgerald, it's been an up and down season for him, but this week I'm going off a matchup, and it's a good matchup versus New Orleans Saints coming in, where they give up the 11th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So I think Carolina, this offense is going to move the football better in this ball game. I know Ryan Fitzgerald, he hasn't done much since week 7 at the Jets with 7 fantasy points. Then week 8 versus the Bills in that one, 1 fantasy points. And week 9 at Green Bay, only 3 fantasy points. So this offense, I know a lot of playmakers, pretty much Rico Dotto, Tator McMillan, the 2 viable options in this offense for this Carolina Panther team. But Fitzgerald, he's been a better kicker at home than he's been on the road this season. 3 games, he's had double-digit fantasy points at home. So this week in a good matchup versus Saints, I think he could go out there, be a decent sleeper option, available in 97% of fantasy leagues. And the final kicker, Chad Ryland of the Arizona Cardinals. He's available in 92% of fantasy leagues and 3 games in a row with double-digit fantasy points. So this week, a tougher matchup going into Seattle. 12th man there. The weather this time of year isn't great. Heavy winds and rain, obviously. Also, the Seattle Seahawks give up the 3rd least amount of fantasy points to kickers on the season. But Ryland has been going out there, and he's been playing good football 3 weeks in a row. Like I said, double-digit fantasy points. Week 6 at the Colts, 11. Week 7 versus Green Bay, 12. And week 9 at the Cowboys, 10 fantasy points. So this week in a matchup versus a good offense of Seattle, and they got to keep pace in this one. I think Ryland could go out there and have a good game. And he's been solid the whole season, the 8 games this season for the Cardinals. He's had double digits 6 times, so he's definitely a kicker that's a good sleeper option, available in 92% of fantasy leagues. That's a few kickers I have as sleepers for week 10 of the fantasy football season.